Oh, fuck y'all. I'm having to get used to being seen again. And I don't know when I wasn't seen, but somehow this version of me still feels a little raw at times. So, hey, welcome to episode number 54 of the Cosmic Mama podcast. I'm your hostess, Andy Murphy. And today, talking to Tracie at Starseed Souls. And Tracie is one of those astrologers who, her lens on how she sees the world, the starseed lens, makes a lot of sense to me. From the first time that we connected, I was able to understand myself differently. She noticed things in my chart that nobody had explained to me that way. But especially during these times of Ascension, during these big conjunctions, and in this age of Aquarius, we're going to be talking with Tracie today about how to kind of make this human journey a little bit better. How to maybe recognize, hey, Pleiadians, I never know how to say it right. But we're going to be talking specifically about the Pleiadian star markers, where those come from, because that's juicy. These big old dreaming portals that are open to us now, these opportunities for us to step into more of our light, more of our joy, and to really begin creating a whole new world. Tracie and I talked quite a bit about why this is happening. Not just that it's happening. I have an intuitive sense of things. I don't have the view on things. So we linked up a bit today. So hey, ready to do this? Light a bowl, light a joint, light a candle. I got a candle going over here. Grab yourself something warm and allow yourself to move into the liminal. Allow yourself to receive something of the sacred and engage in a conversation that might fill you with all kinds of joys and ahas too. See you inside, my love. So, hey y'all, hey! I'm so fucking thrilled to introduce you to Tracie. Tracie of Starseed Souls. Tracie, who I have never gotten the blessing of seeing face to face because we've only talked on the phone. So, welcome to the Cosmic Mama podcast. Thanks for saying yes.
Thank you.
Honored
to be here.
And we're going to open up some sacred space because it's how I like to start things here, so that it's not just you and me. It's also our divine stardust who's listening, and it's all the cosmic forces who are coming in to support us today. So, asking this container of us to expand now. Inviting you to move out of whatever's been going on in your day. Into a place of receiving. They're also asking, as we're opening up some sacred space, sorry, we're channeling a whole bunch already. Hey, welcome to the nature of Starseed Souls, huh, Tracie? Fuck. They want you guys, as we're opening sacred space, or as you're allowing yourself just to come to rest within the beauty and presence of you, to maybe titillate and cue up any of these starseed codes that you know are inside of you. To maybe give a moment to invite those members of the Galactic Federation who are working in conjunction with the divine love plan of Ascension, to maybe come a little closer, to maybe whisper a little louder, and give permission, if you would like, for this today to be not only a conversation, but an activation for you as well, because it feels like that's where we're headed. And they're saying, let this energy expand now through hips. So letting this big pulsating light come in from central sun. Expanding your light, your presence, as we dive right the heck in with Tracie. So I'll just say, the first reading that Tracie did for me blew my mind to such a degree that the way Tracie saw me changed the way I saw myself. And that wasn't even Starseed, y'all. That was Tracie's brilliant gift of being able to just see my rising sign. And Tracie, the things that you said and the way that you came in, like I listened to it over and over and I put it in my field because human Andy has a tendency to forget at times. So I'll just say right away, thanks.
Of course. Gosh, that first reading that we did for you, what was that? Like over a year ago?
Oh, easily, yeah. I think it was in
Yeah.
the midst of 2020 stuff because things were getting pretty, reality was slipping away in bigger and bigger chunks.
That's great. And I remember when you came through for a reading, I saw a rock and roll shaman and I was like, what? What's that? And then your chart was so like in alignment with that. And I was like, okay, that's what that is. Okay, I get it.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I
I
think
love
one
it.
of the things that you said to me is like, you're the voice of galactic consciousness. And I was like, yeah, I get that. So, yeah, for anyone who has not done astrology or for anyone who has, Tracie, what would you say the beauty of having that first natal reading is for people?
Oh gosh, I mean, that's one of my favorite things. Love first timers, even love skeptics, really. I mean, the first time that you hear a natal chart reading that, um, well, if the astrologer can point out things or notices things in the chart that are so specific to you and your life that it just couldn't be the case that that's applicable to just anybody. Um, then you get kind of like that hooked in and your interest heightens and it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? And then when they're touching on, or I like to touch on like childhood or traumas or wounds, and then also gifts and your divine purpose, your solar mission, um, noticing the areas that you might feel uncomfortable to express yourself in because we're not programmed in this society generally speaking for psychic intuitive abilities and all that. It like gives people validation and a pass to feel those things and move forward with those things. And truly, I mean, I'm not trying to be like, oh, people always tell me this, but people always tell me that it's a transformative experience, a profound piece of information, pertaining to their life.
Well, and to be seen in that way, right? My sense, I'm not an astrologer. I know just enough to be a ridiculous goofball about it. Um, to see the uniqueness of the soul, to see the way that divinity expresses through these placements and through this, like it's very much so like it's a lens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it is the map of the soul. And then what's also interesting as well is, or I should say, my favorite part of astrology is how astrology and psychology truly go hand in hand. Because when you are given these passes, right, or given a platform to rise above trauma, when it gives you power over traumas because you have marks of mastership, say, or something that is indicative of you incarnating to break negative cyclical karmic family patterns for your entire soul lineage. I mean, heavy is the crown of the soul that
Hmm.
comes in to do those things. So it can take you out of state of feeling like victimized almost. Okay, like why me? Why did I experience this? To a seating you in a place of power within those things.
Would you talk about those marks of mastership? Because when you say that, I'm like, oh, hubba hubba. Say more. What?
I think you have some. I think you have at least one mark of mastership. So in numerology, 22 is a master number. 11, 22, 33, and sometimes 44, less often seen. And so when someone has anything, any planetary body, or even a house cusp at 22 degrees in the natal chart, this is a mark of mastership, which is indicative of what an old soul they are, that they're carrying a certain level of mastery. And depending on what it's connected to, which celestial body, which house, or which sign that cusp is in, it can be very closely tied into the narrative of what their divine mission is here, because they intended to utilize that mastership and influence people in their sphere in a certain
So it
way.
almost feels to me like a rope that the past life knowledge is going to like make sure that it ekes its way through.
Oh,
String or
absolutely.
cord, huh?
Absolutely. And wherever that mastership is in the chart is when I explain to them what I'm seeing. They're like, I always say like, oh my gosh, it's so funny you say that because X, Y, and Z. Or, oh my gosh, I was just talking to my husband yesterday about how I this, that, and the other.
Right. So it is like the thread in the tapestry. That's gorgeous. How did
Mm-hmm.
you, I really want to get into, the star seed and how you got into the weird stuff, but like back us up a little bit and young, sweet little Tracie finds astrology how?
So I've always been interested in it. Like my bedroom in high school was all celestial themed and all that, right? And then getting out of school, with social expectations and what have you, went into college for fine arts. Which what can you do with that unless you're, anyways. So,
You can
uh,
create anything you want, but you may not be guaranteed an income.
right. Yeah. You're a painter. I mean, move to New York and maybe someone will care. But anyway, so I did that. And then I left there, moved to Austin, Texas, learned how to blow glass. And it was shortly thereafter. So at about 25 years old is when I really, so this is about 11 years ago now, close to, really decided to delve in deeply. And it elicited my dark night of the soul, because the chart can show you all of those parts of yourself that you don't want to look at when you really start delving into the more hidden things of it. And then I had a mentor, an older woman who's since passed away, who wanted to just teach me everything she knew. And I spent a good year and a half on the phone with her, and she would like teach me and we'd talk. And then she passed away, and she kind of passed on the torch of some of her information, and here I am.
Wow. You said the shadows part, and I did write that down because I'm curious.
Mhm.
How would we, so a chart will illuminate the shadows, or a chart will show us
Oh
how to
yeah.
navigate the shadows?
It illuminates it. I mean, it shines a light on all your shit. I mean, there's no the chart's like, okay, you want to see it all? Here it is. And you're like, no. Like a lot of people that start studying astrology or think that they want to get into it, you obviously start with your own chart. Why wouldn't
Right.
you? And they stop at some point when you start looking into the more negative aspects. You can feel pretty crappy at a certain point when you start looking at all the negative things. And I did go through that phase of initially going through my chart where I was like, oh my gosh, I suck. But there is no light without dark, right? And we have to go through
I,
that.
I dig shadows. I'm working on an ebook about shadows, and it's like this whole new place and revelation that I'm in of like the shadow work isn't to make the light everything, but it's to like clear the blockages. Because if we can actually get into the shadows, like it's the cosmic matter, and I really that cosmic matter.
I love that.
I want to remember the stuff that is not just the program. I want to be able to have access points to the older. You
Yeah.
said something with the astrology that really. Let me see if I can find it. No, it may not be here now. It's okay, guys. So the starseed, is this the mentor that you were working with who passed these keys along to you?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's interesting because some of the most like renowned astrologers that wrote books come from like the 70s, like Barbara Hand Clow and like Jan Spiller and all of those people. A lot of them were like there was this time period where astrology started coming to the forefront again, and transpersonal psychology, as opposed to like the more hardcore ways of dealing with people's mental things, shock therapy and crazy stuff, right? Started coming in, and they realized the connection between them. And one of those people that initially downloaded a lot of the information that's still utilized now, traveled Egypt and downloaded all this information when she put her hands on the wall of the pyramids. And yeah, and so, you know, it's really cool. I mean, if anybody feels like they resonate with starseed and starseed information, I, you know, urge you or them to look into those things as much as you can online, or get a reading if you need someone to give you the information. But it's truly the case that, you know, we were a higher consciousness civilization in an ancient sense, and then we had a fall from a heightened consciousness. And at those times of a higher consciousness civilization, they had help. And when I'm doing starseed confirmations, I am specifically referring to those of Pleiadian descent.
Ooh, okay.
Pleiades is one of the closest galaxies to our galaxy, and Pleiadians are the others, quote unquote, who are dedicated to Earth's proper ascension. So I look for Pleiadian markings. Of course, there's especially people who are older souls hail from multiple galactic backgrounds, you know, Andromeda, Orion, like, yeah, right. So totally can be from multiple. It's just what I specialize in is the Pleiadian markings, which have to do with having a divine mission in serving in some way the ascension process, moving into the age of Aquarius.
All those big fucking words. Slow us down and tell us about the Pleiadians, please.
So the Pleiadians are like benevolent beings, and they're traditionally like thought of as being the ones that look Nordic.
I did not know that. Cool. Okay.
No? Yeah, so they are interested in interested in what we as humans go through here on the earth plane. They don't understand why we don't reach our highest point of spirituality faster than we do, if at all, right?
We seem like the slow kids to them, huh?
Yeah. They're like, this might be fun. We're just a case study. So yeah. They say Pleiadians are the ones that put chocolate and marijuana here.
Oh, girl, do you know how many people I have told that since you told me? Because I was like, oh my God, permission granted, smoke your weed, and all of it is fun. Yes, please, chocolate.
I have people ask me that all the time. They're like, so is it bad? And I was like, in a sacred sense, if you're, you know, utilizing it for expansion, right? And then no, I don't think so. And I'm like, Pleiadians put it here, so.
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful. And just for those of you, I mean, I'm a pretty open weed smoker. Not currently smoking, which is also like, that's where I have my shame right now. Like, I'm not a weed smoker right now. But yeah, you guys, like, this is put here to help us. If we do anything for numbing, if we do anything to check out and not feel, that's where anything that becomes addictive is going to be problematic. But yeah, smoke your weed, feel your feels. I sometimes find that whenever I'm really highly emotional in something, if I get high, it just gives a little bit of distance so that I'm able to process it differently without needing to be all up in that. So,
and it's good to take a break sometimes when you start to feel like you start having like a sense of disconnect, right? Also, it can affect your dream state, you know.
Tracie, can I fucking tell you the last reading that we had, which might have been in December of last year?
I think so.
Said something to me, and you're like, the dream space is really big right now, and I'm like, oh God, Can I fucking tell you, lady, like, insane the level of dream communications. I've had one dream that's been about the same dream 6 days in a row lately, and it's a really potent portal right now. So thanks for that. And why is that? Is that just me, or is it going on for the collective?
I think that it's collectively, there's different portals that are open, but I don't think that collectively everyone is open to those kinds of things, right? And I also think that it also has some things to do with placements in your chart, how connected you are psychically to the dream state, or even spirit communication, mediumship, all of those things, prophetic, type dreams?
I'm starting in April. We're going to be starting a 3-month Egyptian mystery school that we call Dream School.
Ooh,
So it is the Egyptian chakras essentially that are coming through, but working with the dreaming state consciously, not unconsciously, to be able to create heaven on earth. And holy shit, the stuff they're coming through with that is like when we work through that dreaming state, when we work through the temples again, when we're bringing it back onto this plane, we have the power to change reality.
wow.
And I heard something so good yesterday on a podcast that I'll share with you too. And it was this idea that there were only 1,000 people that participated in the Renaissance and they changed fucking history with their vision. And I was like,
Wow.
only 1,000. Like, what does it take then for us who are linking up and who are waking up? Like, we have the ability to do all of this if we could just sync up a little bit, y'all. So,
Heck yeah.
fuck
And
yeah, let's go.
speaking of which, because you're doing this stuff that has to do with Egyptian, I'm trying to remember. So did I tell you about Pleiadian lineup and utilizing that?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. Say more.
And I thought I talked to you maybe about like the Ozarks and going to that place.
Did tell me that part. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Pleiadian lineup. So it's interesting because in the chart, some of the things that you will see that are indicative of, or that point that just are star markings, are things that are connected to galactic degrees. So like 25, 26, and 27, and like 26, 27 degrees of Sagittarius is galactic center. Like it is the center point of our galaxy. And because when you look to the Pleiades, it's like in the direction of Taurus, the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is opposite of Scorpio. So anything, or anyone, I should say, that has markings or galactic degrees or other star markings in the signs of Taurus or Scorpio, it can show that their DNA is more pure in a sense. It's almost like if you think about like, okay, I'm Irish, Scottish, Italian,
Pleiadian.
Romanian, and Pleiadian. But like, as time goes on through your lineage, you could have had like great grandparents that were straight off the boat, like hardcore, but it gets muddied out over time, watered down over time. You pull from different DNA, mom and dad, right? And so it's the same way with your galactic lineage. And some people don't come in with it super strong, maybe not at first, but you can be activated. You can have DNA activations over time. So anyways, at those times of the month, during Taurus season and during Scorpio season, when the sun is at 25, 26, and 27 degrees, anywhere from like 17 all the way to like 26, it really kind of like, it's like at the 17th, 18th, so on and so forth. It's called Pleiadian lineup. And it's a time when it's essentially like a portal that opens, and they do a lot more Earth in visitations.
Ooh, okay.
They give people energetic upgrades, DNA upgrades. They do a lot of work here on the ground with starseeds. So that period of time, and there's something that goes on in the Ozarks specifically, where there's a group of Pleiadians that have started this kind of meetup type thing that every year on at that time, Pleiadian lineup, that they all gather together and they have like this whole ceremonial thing because the Ozarks are part of the crystal grid. So it's a part of, so that's pretty cool stuff.
You did mention it to me, and I'm sorry that my brain didn't like put together that word and that lingo, but
no, it's totally fine. Yeah.
And I'm so glad I said no so that we could all hear that.
Yeah.
Yes, please. That Pleiadian lineup. And that's coming up in May. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we'll be in Taurus. The sun is in Taurus. And so it'll be when sun's in Taurus, 17 to like 29th degree.
Yeah. When it's at like 25, 26, and 27 degrees, which is normally around like the 17th, 18th, 19th.
It's so cool. Okay. Yeah. For those of you in Dream School, we'll use that window real fucking good then, won't we?
Oh, yeah, totally. And then the Lion's Gate, of course. I'm sure you'll be using that.
Yeah, that Lion's Gate. It gets me every year, that one. I seem to get a lot of my Leo energy that comes through there, where I'm usually just pretty angry as we go through Lion's Gate. It's
Interesting. Probably moving a lot of things through you. I mean, that's a portal for consciousness that opens up at that time, a portal, an ascension portal. It's crazy too how connected that is to Egypt, because the pyramids are in alignment with, the Great Pyramid is in alignment with that.
Do you want to say the name of your teacher who touched the walls and remembered the codes so that we can honor her within the lineage, or better to keep
She
that?
wasn't the one who specifically touched the codes. This was someone else.
Okay.
And I forget her, my teacher's name was Kay Hall. I was losing it for a second. And I honestly can't remember the name of the woman that originally did this. I think the name that she went by was like something like rock and roll shaman. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I ever knew her like real name. She had like it was like lavendar.
Thank you. We're just claiming our own names down here, you guys. So are you connected to the Pleiadians and do work outside of astrology to connect with those star families and lineages?
Oh, I'm super. Yeah, I'm absolutely starseed for sure. Also, this is my divine mission, is awakening starseed brothers and sisters to their divine mission here in the age of Aquarius. So that's why I'm ultimately was led to astrology. And there's certain things in people's charts as well that show a gift of astrology, or that they've practiced astrology, or things within the occult in previous incarnations. You know, I also teach a course, and so I often the people that are in my course are people that I've done readings before for. And they have those kinds of markings. And when you start studying, you experience this whole feeling of like, why do I feel like I'm remembering this?
All of it.
It's not the first time I've read this or that I'm taking this in.
Yeah, I think learning is, I don't use that word. I usually will write remember with a hyphen in it, because all of it is just things that we're putting back in and giving back to our consciousness to be able to enact. When you say your mission is here to lead and wake up starseeds through the age of Aquarius through Ascension, oh my God. Okay, what's Tracie's worldview on Ascension these days? Let's just qualify it that way, because I know it can get big.
Yeah, I mean, so the age of Aquarius is all about more spirituality, more knowing thyself, also more technology, but in a higher consciousness kind of way, right? Not talking like some kind of like dark AI stuff, right? But you know, the dawning of the age of Aquarius was in like the 60s, where we had like the hippies and the love and the expression and more embodiment and acceptance of a melding of the divine feminine and the divine masculine and all of that, right? And so those were a lot of starseeds that were kind of like laying groundwork essentially, and bringing these things back into awareness. Whereas prior to that, you know, people were very shut down and kept into a certain
50s, shell shock.
Yeah, chugging the Kool-Aid for the last 30 years. So, you know, and a lot of people were shocked by it. It was shocking. The people that weren't in that, you know, were felt assaulted by all of those things, like, you know, clenching their pearls, like, you know, whatever. So, so moving into the age of Aquarius really has a lot to do with, well, actually, in a literal and scientific sense, Gaia herself is actually vibrating at like a higher frequency than she's ever been. So as we are moving into this higher frequency, you know, those of us that are star-seeded and those of us that are on that path are going to be shifting in alignment with that frequency and have the opportunity to experience this plane in a more 4D, 5D kind of way versus being stuck in kind of like a third dimensional experience on this plane.
No, I think we've graduated the 3D. The 3D, the way that I've been, again, I've started channeling Dream School in already, but like 3D is so we get to learn density. And once we learn how to work in that density, then we can create this very intentionally in every other star system. And that's where we get to like the keys of immortality and all of that. So
love that. And it's so hard, right? I mean, those of us that are in healing fields or in tune with spirituality or even interested in it because of things that pose questions for us, we're such light bodies And this is such a dense plane, and
Hard.
it can be very hard, really hard. And that's the same thing like with, star seeds, as children, child star seed have a very difficult time experiencing and going through all of the motions, especially as time has gone on and they're coming in stronger and stronger and more pure and more pure. Like standardized testing doesn't work for them.
In the schooling system, like I have a
Oh yeah.
5-year-old, it doesn't, it's an indoctrination program that she really struggles with because none of it is expanding who she is. None of it is adding. Yeah, it's a challenging system whenever we've got these ancient souls who are like, I don't need to learn that again.
That, and also knowing on a higher level that some of those things that they're being taught in textbooks are largely misconstrued or false altogether, especially historically speaking,
Oh, good.
right?
Yes.
So they're like, their higher self is like, well, this is a crock of shit, and they're like, pay attention. And they're like, oh, fine, they're trying. And then it can also be the case that some of those are deemed like ADHD,
Of course, problematic. Yep.
right. Attention dialed into higher dimensions is really
Ooh, good, good. Yeah, girl. ADD
snaps.
dialed into the higher dimension. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
So
ascension is inevitable. Talk to me about how the galactics are here to help us. Because it does feel like, my sense at least within the last couple of months, is there's more portals and they're actually able to be here embodied in new ways. And that feels like it's shifted since December.
yeah, and it's interesting because like I feel okay, so historically speaking, there has been certain conjunction meaning like when something in the natal chart is conjunct, it's right next to each other, right on top of each
Thank you.
other, within a few degrees of each other. And so in the current sky, transit speaking, certain times when historically conjunctions have happened, that prominent things took place, like wars and other pandemics. And the alignment that happened prior to COVID, I think was very specific to a transformative period of people. A lot of people were forced to sit with themselves in their own space and slow down and take a look. And some people didn't do very well with that. I know some people who like struggled deeply with those things. But I also have talked to a lot of people in doing readings that they said, it's actually been wonderful for me. I've never, ever had the time or the space to meditate or do yoga. And since the pandemic, I have now picked up the practice of that. So I feel like there's like a transformative period going on where it's kind of like this surgence after or with this conjunction where it's like, okay, this is going to bring this situation because we need to get a mass amount of you to kind of level yourselves up. And then now that we're moving out of that conjunction, COVID's dying off, we're in this space and people are finding it hard to get back into the flow of working a 9 to 5 and putting themselves back into that space. We're shifting.
Like what I'm watching happen and what it feels like is that the vibration got so high, or got, as you said, of Ascension, Gaia is able to hold these higher frequencies and different vibrations. We all kind of moved up and vibrated there with her. And now there's another layer of reality that they're asking us to re-engage with. And quite literally, we cannot. Like, I cannot go into the density of my parents' fears. I cannot engage in a reality that are the constraints that they're participating in. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because it's a hard experience to walk through and to be in. It feels, oh shit, there it is for me. It feels like we're leaving people behind.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's at some point with all of these things presenting themselves, these opportunities, if you will, to look at ourselves, look at the world, look at the way things have been going over the last X amount of years, right? And either sitting with that and realizing, but then there's some people who as many spiritually awakened or conscious, I mean, at least spiritually conscious at the very least, as many of those people as I know, there's still a lot of people who are still stuck in the place of a lower vibrational frequency. And at some point, I mean, yes, we absolutely are going to be transcending that, or have transcended that. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit, because I think for as hard as a lot of us find it to operate on that plane anymore, that just goes to show how much, at what rate we are operating at a higher frequency, right? I mean,
It happened faster and more intensely than I ever expected.
Yeah.
And like you, like I, have been planning for this ascension thing all of our lives. It's what we were put here to lead through and to love through. And yet the speed at which people are waking up like, oh my God, it's very exciting to watch, and it's heartbreaking what's requiring that wake up and requiring that breaking away from things. I think, you know, my heart always prays for it to be more gentle, but the gentle is not always as effective.
Yeah, I mean, in deep, profound transformation and transmutation, and turning from one, you know, annihilation, constant annihilation, to find what is indestructible within ourselves, and the world, and all of those things. I mean, it's like the Tower card, you know, like it's not a pretty picture.
No.
Yeah.
This idea of living in the multiverse, where there's multiple realities that are going on at any one point in time. So for me to be concerned about this narrative, like the experience that I have to choose right now, is all of it is a story. And I'm going to live in the story that I want to tell, not the one that's being told to me. Which can be disorienting, which can be isolating, but I've found that it's the only way that I know how to stay sane, at least.
Yeah. And I mean, like, operating like as a shaman, like you do, right? It is your job to walk people through, or be a light in the darkness. So, you know, how brave of you on a soul level to come in and be like, all right, I'm doing this at this time. Like, good luck.
I was in mushroom ceremony last weekend, and the thing that kept coming through me was, I'm too fucking old to exist on this planet. Like, it's a wonder that I'm here at all. Like, nothing of this earth realm makes sense. But it was such a sweet little thing they kept saying, is like, things as ancient as you shouldn't be here. And I'm like, I know, right? Like, I shouldn't be here at all. And yet we come again and again to participate in this evolution, because it is really sexy.
Super sexy.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's sensual, I think, is the way that I just look at it. Like, all of it is some level of love and passion and experience, but it's any expression of sensing and feeling is really inherently love and pretty sexy.
It's funny that you say that, and that's almost, it's like so like intuitive or all knowing of you, because nobody would really like naturally connect those two things, like shamanism and sexy things. But the 8th house, Scorpio's house, the house of shamanism, is also on another level. Every house is many things, but that's the house of shamanism, and also on another level, it is the house of sex. It's the same house.
Yeah. It's the collision of forces, right? In any regard, that the experience of being on this planet, the experience of being human, the gift of being here now to watch all of this, I can freak out and believe it, or step into some joy and have just a little different window on it at times.
That's all you can do, man. That's all you can do.
When does all of this shit get lighter? I know for me personally, you've told me that, so I'm not so concerned. Thank you for being as generous as you are with that. But like, for our Divine Stardust who's listening, at what point do we all get to take a sigh of relief and be like, oh fuck, it's gonna be okay. Okay. When do we know that we've succeeded?
When we've succeeded, I don't know the end game or whatever, but I think right now there's definitely some positive things with Jupiter's transition, and with Pisces, that there already has been a lot of light coming in, right? I think that people are starting to feel, and it even shows itself in the way that we finally loosened up on the pandemic stuff, right? And so it's starting to kind of show all right, we will be, existing again in some kind of way, right? Whereas for a little bit there, going into the third calendar year of all this, we were like, we'll never be the same again. I mean, this is it. So I think that it is.
Because and again, like I have an intuitive sense of these things. I don't have the view and the lens that you do. So what is it that lightened here right in March that we all felt?
Like Jupiter's transition into Pisces. So like, I think that gave us a lot of like, expansion and abundance and feelings of benevolence, right? There's like kind of like a benevolence air to those kinds of things. It can also be a little bit like disillusionment sometimes, or illusion, delusion, idealism, right? So there can be some negative ways or things that we're also feeling that kind of way about some stuff. But I think that from here on out, truly, with everything that's happened, there's always going to be something, right? It's not the case that at some point it's just going to lighten up and then it's just the glory days for the rest of the eons we're around, right? Or as an Earth experience, because the Earth plane is the only plane in which we experience pain and suffering, and it's for our soul's development. So we're always going to have some kind of density or some kind of something that everything always comes back around,
Well, and I think through that polarity that we learn, right? It's where we experience the shadows and the light. It's where I've been working with the shadows a little bit differently lately, where I can't see it. I can feel the shape of it now. Like I can sit in the void enough that I can navigate through textures, even when I can't see anything.
Very cool.
Even that refinement of shadow and of darkness and of pain in it. Yeah, it's kind of
I think that's what is pertinent for people to do at this time, is to ground into this higher vibrational state that most of us have been led into, as opposed to allowing outside forces to kind of pull the wool over our eyes and eventually pull us back down into a lower dimensional quality and vibration, right? Eventually just giving into, well, I guess we'll just go back to the way, falling back into the patterns that they want us in. So I think it's pertinent for people to do that and to keep doing the work. And you have to work for that kind of awareness. Like, it is a daily effort to be conscious, right? You know what I mean? So it's not like we're just getting to a point where finally it's going to lighten up and then we can just let everything go. Like, we're still going to have the human experience. So however anyone will find ways to navigate through the rest of your experience in this incarnation that keep you in a higher vibrational state is important. And the more you do that,
you want to talk to people about how to, because I certainly have ideas, but I'd love to hear your perspectives. How can people get to a higher vibrational state? Because I often find people feel like they failed if they can't. And I'm like, no, like, the process of getting back to it is the work and is the gift as well. It's not like, oh, my vibration fell and I'm worthless now. So what would be a tip that you would offer for people to be able to maintain and like stay in that chill zone?
I mean, the easiest ways to do it are seriously like cleaning up your diet a little bit, cut out fluoride, try and eat organic as much as you can. Don't be like directly putting those kinds of things into your body that are just like genetically modified, all that. Fluoride, which literally calcifies your pineal gland, your third eye. Also words, your speech, not talking down to yourself, not speaking ill of other people, using the power of manifestation, mantras, chanting, power of intention, and just being in the present and gratitude, practicing gratitude for what you have when you have it. Quit stressing. Most of the time, if we have anxieties, it's because we're either stressing the future or the past.
That's it. Yeah, I say that worry is like programming the future for fear. It's not
Right.
helping anything at all. You're just playing in a future timeline that you're now putting fear into that doesn't need to
And those
exist.
are lower vibrational things. So
Yeah.
you might even inadvertently be keeping yourself in a lower vibrational state. You could be eating organic, running every day, writing in a notebook all the things you want to manifest, and then
Yeah, but if this
not
shit is dirty, none of it matters, does it?
right. And then not even realizing that you're operating in this because you're worried about financial stuff, you're worried about money. And when you actually do that, when you have a lack mentality, you're going to get that in return, right? You have to focus on the abundance. You have to understand that money is energy, right? And when you are spending money, it's an exchange of love, because that exchange of love that you give, right? It's supporting someone else in some way. We're not talking like, okay, well, if you go way up the chain, like the
Yeah, no, we're
super
getting
rich, where
out
it's like,
corporate. And I think that's the beautiful thing that I'm recognizing now, in the sense that I've had, is spirituality will be the most valued thing. Those of us
mm-hmm.
who are doing this work, there are literally people who are making millions off of this now. That wasn't the case a few years ago. And it's not about, a materialistic grab for anything. It's where our values, and our value in developing the spirit, our value in honoring a soul, I think is just going to continue to rise.
Absolutely. And we are breaking all kinds of rules that have been instilled in us as a people for a very long time, and breaking out of old expectations and paradigms, and transforming the status quo, and bringing out of the darkness into the light things that have been shunned or deemed bad. You know what I mean? Even in terms of like working with these kinds of things, and light and dark and shamanism, where there's a lot of fear in and around those things that have existed for quite some time, right? I mean, even myself, like growing up Catholic, my mom, like oh man, I wanted to watch ghost shows on TV so bad growing up. And I have all kinds of eighth house placement stuff going on too, which is the veil between here and the spirit world. So man, it just like, I was like, ping. And my mom was
Yep.
like, we do not watch that. You do not turn that on TV. You do not, we don't even speak of those kinds of things. And I was like, okay, well, but I really want to, that looks really cool though, you know, and now she's opened up to a lot of things. That could be one of the most difficult things too, for us that are going through this like evolution process, is kind of trying to navigate the relationship with our parents, when we can see the ways in which they especially when their lower vibrational qualities trigger our inner child, and how to, yeah.
They do all the time. Yeah, yeah. That's just exactly my last 2 days, where I'm like, ouch, and that revelation of the trauma that's been going on the whole time, that I didn't like. Yes, with that full moon in Virgo last night, like it all just showed itself to me, and I'm like, oh shit. And when that trauma comes on, y'all, like it shows up in a body, and you just need to tend to the body. It's not about trying to raise your frequency. It's not about trying to meditate your way through it. It's about really descending in that moment to allow wherever this is within your physical vessel to be tended and loved and soothed, so the light can move through with greater ease.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. But also, in the same regard, like I totally feel that. I mean, no one can trigger me like my mom can. So I'm right there. It's hard.
It's hard. And it's hard without us trying. I would say earlier in my awakening path, I want to bring everybody along, and I want to wake everybody up. I know much better now to not engage in those things, but to let my frequency and my vibration speak volumes for me. And those who can sense it or feel it, that's kind of an invitation to engage. But okay, here's a good question for you, Tracie. My tendency is, when I'm around my family, to kind of like just dim all of my magic in order to engage with them on the human. And while that seems like a okay way of doing things, it takes me about a month afterwards to recover. So you have better tips for us, please? Because fuck me, that one's not really working.
Yeah, I hear you, girl. And I have just recently started to, I mean, like in my first years of doing astrology and stuff, like especially at the other side of my family, super felt like completely outcasted, like I was wrong or bad, or that they were even scared to talk to me or deal with me or certain people. And I was like, okay, but truly, I think that you need to, it's just as important for you to show up for them as who you are, as your clients and the people that you work with, because you incarnated into this soul group for a purpose, right? And part of that could have been, as uncomfortable for them as that may be, for you to, positively influence them in some way or assist them also through this. And it's difficult with our family because the way we are with our family and in private and is different than the way we are with anybody else, and I say, screw that, man. Don't dim your light. Don't shrink yourself down for anyone or anything. Your divinity and your solar mission and the power that you hold and the reason that you came here. I mean, you do that and dim yourself, and your higher self is up there like, ugh.
Yep. Yep.
Stop.
My Christmas every year.
Yeah, I feel you though.
But what a sweet thing to say of there's other ways to do this. And we do show up oftentimes as the one who are breaking the patterns and talking about the things that nobody else is talking about, not because we're offensive, not because we're wrong, but because we're sensitive enough to feel and heal what they may not be able to put words on at times.
I think so. And it's also the case that, when going back to like the marks of mastership and all of that, like not everybody is operating on such a high level as someone like you, right, are. And so I think that it's almost like, well, if you think about like when we're not in this human form and we're in our soul essence, right? And we understand our connection to source and all of those things, all of those same people, all of those same souls that you're having this experience with knew damn well prior to incarnating here that you were going to be an intricate part of their personal evolution. And if, again, heavy is the crown of the one with the mastership that says, okay, I'm going to take all of this on, and I will walk everyone through the darkness and into the light. And that is my divine power, my divine mission. And all of those same people in that soul group were like, please don't forget us. And then, so I think that it's absolutely necessary, again, as uncomfortable as that may be. I mean, someone's got to do it.
Well, and I just love how you even took that out of like the human lens and the discomfort and the family like obligations and roles, and you just gave it back to its divine order, which is like, fuck that, they knew what they were in for.
Yeah, they signed up.
That's great. And I love the way that you do astrology in every way, but you also seem to have a lot of hope. Would you share some of that with us? For anybody who might still be struggling, can you tell us either what's coming on the horizon that's going to continue to feel good, or where we might get into a shift that we really feel like we've surpassed something? And it feels like the same question as earlier, but I'm trying to refine it a little bit, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating.
Yeah, no, you're totally fine. So yeah, I do think of myself as like an empowerment astrologer. And so in general, I tend to look for ways or find ways to empower people through even collective shifts that seem muddy or dark, right? And again, I think that right now we're kind of like on the brink of that stuff. I think that right now with the Virgo new moon, that it was kind of pertinent for people to reflect on the skills that they have as opposed to trying to start something new, redefine or reawaken things within themselves that they're passionate about, and find those spaces in which they can exist in their divine right, and the things that the gifts that they came in with, right, as opposed to trying to mold into any new kind of shape to fill some kind of new container, and showing up is who they are, to step
Yeah.
into this new space that we're stepping into. Because truly coming out of this pandemic like this, we're kind of like being birthed into like a new situation.
That I
A
was
new,
just kind of like playing with that idea yesterday is now when we show up in our sovereignty. We don't show up in our smallness anymore. Contrary to what I just said about family, y'all. So sorry. Different
no.
context. But as we're all kind of re-emerging in the world and showing up, we're taking all of the gifts that we've harvested over the last 2 years and we're like, hey, you want to play? So I keep calling it, as Remington said, going for a test drive in this new skin. This is completely new. You are completely
Yes.
fucking new. This is such an exciting time to show up because your boundaries are better and your sense of self is better and your self-love is better. So we aren't re-engaging with, the world's not the same. You're not the same.
And there's the hope.
Thank you.
And there's the hope. And that gave me
Also,
mad chills when you were saying that stuff specifically. And it's not like I was like, ooh, but like that's one of my indicators. Like I was like, yes,
yeah.
confirmation. So, that is the hope. This kind of thing that we've gone through, which has forced us into this cocoon of transformation to be then birthed into this new experience. And it's like, what are we going to do with it? Who are you going to be?
Because if we
And
all
I think,
remembered our crazy ass fucking true power, our power as creators, our power as divine in form, the world changes very quick. And as we said at the beginning, only 1,000 people created the Renaissance and changed the world. Y'all, this is game on time to me, which is why I think I feel so jazzed about it.
yes, and we are so much more powerful. Everyone that's listening, you're all so much more powerful than you have any idea that you are. So much more. We're not even programmed to even comprehend on this plane like
We
how
are
powerful
programmed
we
to
are.
forget. We are programmed to be small. We are distracted so fucking frequently. I was really kind of getting mad about that. I was doing some writing this morning. The level of distraction that keep you from being able to tap into like even a millisecond of the true potential power that you are is insane.
Yes.
Hmm.
And it's time for everyone to also to operate in that place of hope, like also to like try to focus on the daily, especially now that this is coming at springtime, right? Um, really tap into your earth senses. Um, Paying close attention instead of like walking out your door, going straight to your car and not looking up, not looking at the trees, not looking at any of that stuff, and just getting right back into the matrix, right? And the way we function
Hmm.
in that way. And so that way, as we move into summer, which we definitely should have some really light, fun energy at that time that feels really good. You're already primed up for that, that grounded earth experience of that, where you can be more present. So even if that involves picking up grounding, like the practice of grounding, walking on your bare feet outside for like 10, I don't care if it's 5 minutes, whatever I don't care if it's the only time you could do it is when you're on a phone call and you go walk outside barefoot while you're on the phone, like, or just stand there, 5 to 20 minutes, whatever it is, picking those things up. If you're someone who dreams frequently or vividly, start playing more with that. Stop downplaying the psychic experiences that your astral body has when you travel the astral world at night. And we're all so quick to wake up the next day and be like, oh, that was weird, and then never talk about it again. Keep a journal.
Hmm.
Expand on that. Ask your guides for your highest guidance prior to going to sleep and see what comes through. It's 4:44 on my clock right now. See what comes through when you go to sleep and wake up in the morning and jot those things down immediately. Start playing with the access that we have to the higher dimensions of ourselves. And when you do this, the more you do this and the more you focus on your power and the beauty and the magic that is the human experience, right? It's got its other shit too. There will be better times to be had.
As you talk, my feet begin to hum and vibrate. I can feel in that Taurus season too. The sensuality has very little to do with sexuality. It's the senses. It's engaging. It's
Oh, yes.
touching. It's feeling. It's crying with a tree. It's all of those things that are so rich and available to us. So yeah, I love that Taurus season is coming. Yeah, I've had the sense as well that all the way through July we're good. We're in some like really sweet energy that is supporting us and anchoring into new planes and new frequencies. And it won't, the lessons will be like in not dimming yourself and in not going down. And can you actually stay up here and create what you're supposed to? Woo, woo.
Mm-hmm. Amen,
I remember
sister.
a question that I wanted to ask earlier, and I want to make sure we get it in here. Free will versus destiny in a fucking astrology chart, lady.
So there's always free will, right? The things that you incarnate with in your natal chart is like your you specifically choose where, when, and with whom within your soul family to incarnate based on your soul's karmic needs or where you're at in terms of your soul's evolution. You have a true soul's desire, you have an intent, and there's always free will.
Always
And
free will. Thank you.
always free will. And if there is the parts of you and the things that you automatically experience with a and from a place of a higher vibration, right, and a spiritual knowing and a more conscious effort of approaching those things, there can be a lot of destiny happenings that at that point. So more things will come from that. It will open gateways and channels for more destiny bound experiences, right? But everything that we struggle with, and that is like the things that we see in our life that are like a prominent struggle, which is also in the chart, that shit will keep coming up. The universe will serve that to us on a hot platter
Run over.
until we get it, you know, whether it's a pattern that we express in a relationship continuously, patterns that we experience with our friends or with authority figures,
Or
or
scarcity.
scarcity, self-confidence, uh, all that, right?
I've been playing with this idea like nothing, there's no such story as why is this happening to me? Everything is happening for us. Nothing is happening to us. And the sooner we can like make that little micro shift in it, we can. And it's not just about victimhood, y'all, because I think we've done a pretty fucking good job sorting that out. But there's this other layer, and you can even hear it in my languaging with Tracie today. Like, please just tell me it's going to be okay. Like, when the fuck do we get to the other side? And we won't have, there is no other side. We get to choose in this exact fucking moment how we're going to navigate through it. And that's going to begin to spin new webs of reality and begin to create that new Akashic field that we'll all be living in.
Yes.
Cool.
Amen. And I think that at some point, long game, right? Maybe it's the case that we will be existing in a plane where the earth plane will have, our energetic resources will be higher consciousness, right? Will evolve out of like depleting the earth of all of her internal organs, basically draining her, and then what does that world look like? Is that when we've made it? So it's like, until then, all we can do is
Show the
truly
fuck
make
up.
that daily conscious effort to show up for ourselves and the people that are around us.
And do it with, the word that kept coming through as I was writing earlier today is tenderness, and do it with tenderness.
Do it with
And
tenderness.
do it with like the innocence of this heart and the joy and that awe of every moment, because it is available to you and fresh all the time. And you create the stories, or you are the ones who like find yourself in the loop that we have, not you, Tracie, not you who's listening, but like we have to recognize that even in that, the power of, am I fucking looping and am I working on something that I've already sorted out? Or is this a different vibration of it that I can choose just to kind of move the dial a tiny bit?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally. I love it.
Anything else that you want to share, Tracie, that's been jazzing you lately or that you're excited about, or even maybe one of those markers where you're like, holy shit, if you have this, like, do this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I anyone that wants to get a natal chart reading, please,
Oh, please, yes.
please reach out, because there's so many things that I love to point out, and everyone that is drawn to me to get a reading has star markings, and they are people who have profound missions. And I've done over 700 recorded natal chart readings. I've sent them all over the world. Sent one to South Africa like 2 days ago. You know what I mean? Like they're all over. So, you know, if there's certain markings in the chart that people are the oldest of the souls, like there are no souls older than these people. There's people who have sincere markings in their chart and indicators that they will not find fulfillment until they find a way to be of spiritual service to other people. And that's something that gives people a pass to move out of their corporate position. Oh, I've always wanted to, I've been interested into moving into some kind of healing field, but I have this corporate job and it's comfortable and it serves its purpose, but I'm miserable, you know. And those things I also love to tell people when I see the ascended masters marking in their chart, that they're, because of their mastership, the ascended masters gave them the opportunity to carry the ascended master's frequency here. So they're broadcasting it all the time. And so baby, that person in the grocery cart, like from, and this marking sticks with you from the beginning of life to the end of this incarnation. So like baby them in the grocery cart, the ascended masters would work it out just so that they wound up in line behind someone they were trying to reach. And there they are broadcasting that frequency for them to reach that person. Perhaps an unawakened starseed, praying or begging for guidance or the willpower to overcome something. And then them just being present and holding that space here for them to work on them changes that person's trajectory and life completely. You know, those are really special things to know about oneself.
Yeah.
And astrology is a wonderful tool. Even if you don't get a reading from someone, like go to astro.com and put in your birth info. And I know you won't know much of what you're looking at, but
take one key and uncode it.
Take one key and uncode it. I mean, you're looking at the zodiacal wheel, 12 pie slices. They're numbered 1 through 12. And then you can see the box below it that says Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus with the symbol right next to it. All you got to do is find who that little symbol is and look at what pie slice it's in. And you Google that.
Google that shit.
In the second house. That's it. And just delve into things, man. To find out through your chart. Look at your North Node on there. That's your true soul's desire for this incarnation. Any aspects or modalities in which we can know thyself better or a little bit more. I mean, that's what it's about. That's all it's about.
And what I want to just reflect here too is every star chart is totally unique. Every soul has been on such an interesting journey. So as, you know, Tracie has been blessed to read lots of charts. I've been blessed to do lots of Akashics. Nobody is like anyone else. And so watching how spirit and watching how the divine expresses in form and like how not only unique you are, but how precious and how beloved and how fucking special every being is for everything and the way that it lines up. It's astounding.
It is.
So if people are ready to get time with Tracie, can you tell them where to find you, please?
Yeah. Starseedsouls, plural.com. So starseedsouls.com. And I'm Starseed Astrologer on Instagram, although I'm terrible at Instagram. My 12th house sun likes me to not be super present. I like to be behind the scenes, but I'm on there. Yeah, and you can find a reading. I also teach astrology courses a few times a year. Yeah, reach out if you want to.
Hey, and I will tell you guys, we were very intentional in not telling you too many of the starseed markers. It feels like it's too big to kind of put out through this transmission, but working with Tracie one-on-one, you'll hear about your own, and taking the classes with her, I know that she does share some of those things in classes. So please don't feel like we missed out on that today. It was rather guided and intentional and not posting those keys out too big because they're potent, as are you.
Yes.
Tracie, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Love and light and blessings. Andy, so good to see you. And love and blessings to everyone listening. And hopefully we connect again soon, Andy.
Yeah, she's totally lovable, right? Gorgeous and insightful. And hopefully there are some pieces in there about astrology that kind of blow your mind. It's certainly my goal, not to blow your mind. Well, maybe I want to blow your mind a little bit. But more importantly, I want to challenge your limitations on reality. I want to shake it all up a little bit, snow globe style, so that you participate as the divine being that you are. And hearing Tracie's words in those many ways, poetically and beautifully and strong. Oh, yes, my love, yes. I hope you got exactly what you needed today. And if you're still looking for the practice of how to be divine in form, for the how-to and the practical of how to do this ascension thing, it's kind of what we're doing at Dream School. I'd love for you to check it out if you're feeling it, because I only want those of you who feel it. It's going to be a soul group who comes together. Dream School, we will be launching in April, starting our first couple of Shenkas and the basic keys as we begin to learn. Doors officially close on May 1st, and after that, 3-month Egyptian Mystery School, because fuck, I'm so excited to share it with you. Truly, you heard about all that dreaming stuff in there, right? You want to play with it deeper? I do. I am. I will. I shall. I love you.